So yes, there's back with another video. So yeah, for this one, I want to talk about. Firstly, I saw a stat called field tilt, and the definition of it was basically just talking about the share of possession the team has in the game, mainly factoring like what you do on the ball in terms of passing in the attacking phase, essentially. So, essentially, what it's explaining is the amount of touches of the ball, the amount of passing, the amount of actions, the amount of time you've got the ball in the final third of the opposition. Obviously, your final third, basically. So essentially what the stats shows is dominance, because obviously if you're having a high percentage of the ball in the possession's final third compared to them having it in yours, because obviously when you look at ball possession, you're looking at it as, so like when you have the ball or when they have the ball, but they can have the ball in their own half, and they could have a 70% possession, but they control the ball mainly in their half. If you remember back to Brendan Rodgers' Swansea, that was one of the things that people were saying about them, was that they had a lot of the ball, they were keeping the ball, but a lot of the time they were keeping it in their own half. So of course, if you have the ball a lot in your own half, then yeah, you can dominate possession, but you're not really dominant because you're just keeping the ball in a place that's not dangerous to the opposition. But what this field tilt does is that it measures the possession based on the amount of times you have the ball or the amount of ball possession you have in the final third. So basically, it shows that you're being dominant. You have the ball in the opposition's half and you're attacking them essentially. So it measures it that way. And when I looked at the stat in terms of our games this season, it shows we've had 5 games. Obviously, we had 81% in one game, 82% in another game, 83% in another game, 90%, and then in the Palace game, which was our lowest, we had 50%. So that shows that we're having the ball a lot in the opposition's half, in the opposition's box. Essentially, 80% of the ball is being in the opposition's box, and they having 20% of it in our box, basically. So it's like that shows you the dominance we're having. So yeah, I've seen a lot of talk about how we're not as exciting this season and things like that, especially in the final third, which I agree with. But we are very, very dominant. We are very dominant, and as you can see, and a lot of that is the reason. I think this is what Arteta is mainly focused on, which I've said this before. Really, Arteta is not so much focused on how we are on paper, how we're written on paper. It's a lot of it is focused on our shape in position, and the reason, and for you to have a shape, and for you to be focused on the shape and position, you need to trust the fact that you're gonna dominate the games. And a stat like this that shows that we are actually dominating the game and we are having the ball in the more advantageous areas to the opposition. We would be a lot more concerned about what's it called, lining up with, say, for example, Havertz and Odegaard in the final third of our midfield. It will be a lot more concerning if it was the other way around, if we were having 20% of the possession in their half. But because we know that we're having 80% of the possession in their own half, majority of the time, 90% at times, it allows you to feel like, okay, the 20% or the 10% that they have in our box is not worth us playing with an extra defensive midfielder, or it's not worth us playing with an extra deep player. What's the point? If you know you're going to dominate the ball for long spells in the game and you're going to have the majority of the ball in the final third, then it makes more sense for you to field more attacking players in your team and trust the fact that for that 10 and 20%, you have the defenders and you have the presence to be able to get the ball back and retain position and put you back in an offensive position again, which we have been able to do, which is why we're dominating these games and having 80% in these high positions. So in saying that already, those stats again, as it shows, obviously it doesn't show that we've been excited or anything like that, but it shows dominance. And for me, a key thing for this is the reason why you look at, for example, how we've been playing this season. Last season we played with Xhaka and Odegaard in our midfield. This season we've gone with Havertz in our midfield with Odegaard, and we've gone with Fabio Vieira in the last game with Odegaard, which shows that we're playing with very offensive midfielders. And again, the reason we can do this is because we're very dominant on the ball. But there are other players who are key to this happening. So, for example, the main reason why we are able to dominate like this here is, one, because of our build-up play, the way we're able to control the ball, control the game, keep possession, and progress the ball into the final third. Yeah, that's the key thing. That's why Arteta was so key, and he puts the build-up play in such a high pedestal, because it's so important to how we want to play. Because if you're mainly focused on how you're shaped in position, then the build-up is important, because you need to get the ball to the final third, especially when you're playing with two tens who aren't going to be dropping deep. So, for example, when our build-up is the main reason why we're able to be so dominant. The second thing is our pressing, because we can press so well and we can get the ball back again quickly. It also allows us to retain the ball, regain the ball, and start attacking again, and get back into the final third again and become more dominant. So these are the key reasons, systematic reasons as to why we're able to be so dominant and play in the final third. But in terms of like the individuals that allow us to do this, for example, we couldn't play this way last season with Partey as the defensive mid, because yes, I love Partey. I think he's a great number 6. in terms of like the way he builds the ball at the back, the way he passes, the way he carries the ball, the way he dribbles, and the way he uses his dribbling to find space, to find people in the final third. However, what Rice brings to us in that defensive position is that he's very mobile, very good defensively, fantastic defender of the ball. He reads the game so well. He's able to close teams down. He's got the engine, and he can go back and forth and press all around the pitch and cover these areas, cover the sixth area. Has great awareness of and positioning in that sixth role. So because we have a player like that, like Declan Rice, who's able to play in that role and is able to like cover such like massive gaps compared to Partey, who yes, he can defend really well, but you don't want him defending massive gaps. He's getting older. He's not got the legs for it. He's not got the engine for it. So, but you've got Rice, who has the legs for it, who has the engine for it, who's got the reading of the game and all that sort of things to play that role. It allows us to be able to play with Havertz and Fabio Vieira, who can mainly stay high up the pitch. In terms of like when we're attacking the ball, and when we lose the ball, we've got Rice, who is able to cover for these two. So Rice is an individual who's key in allowing this system to work out. Because of simply him being able to cover for these guys defensively. Another guy who's key to allowing this to happen again is Zinchenko. He's key to allowing these players to play high up the pitch in terms of like having Fabio Vieira or Havertz on the left centre mid and Odegaard there, and then obviously you got Martinelli and Saka in the wide areas. Zinchenko's another one who's key for that, because if you've got a midfield of Declan Rice and you've got a midfield with Odegaard and Fabio Vieira or Havertz, who are going to be mainly in the final third waiting for the ball, you need a midfield that can bring the ball out from the back and into the final third. And Zinchenko has been key for this. He was key for this last season with Partey, and again, he's key for it this season again. You see, even more this season, he's playing a lot more like as a midfielder. He was doing this last season, obviously, but even more now, he's positioning already from the moment we have the ball back, he's already in midfield, already waiting there. I feel like he's taken on a lot more responsibility now, especially because with Partey out of the team. He's in the midfield, dominating the game, controlling the game, finding good passes, finding players in the final third, using his dribbling to bring the ball out the back, beating the press, drawing players to himself and finding players in the final third. Against Everton, he was fantastic for me. There was a pass he made where I think it was Fabio Vieira who made the run behind, or no, it was Trossard who made the run behind, and everyone was focused on Zinchenko, and he was facing the other way. It was like a no-look pass, and he just swung the ball over the top, dipped it over the top of the defender, and he put Trossard through and go 1v1. He also did another pass again like that where he tipped the ball to, it might have been Martinelli, or Fabio Vieira, where he just dinked the ball. He was right in front of the opposition's back line, and he just dinked the ball over the top and found him in there. So Zinchenko, again, he's so important because, again, when you have a midfield that's not going to be staying really deep in midfield, you need to have players behind the ball that are going to be able to find these guys in the final third and allow them to stay up there, because they would have to come back if they don't have if they're not able to get the ball and players aren't able to get the ball to them, then they would have to drop back to come and get the ball, to come and have a touch of the ball to help us build up play. But the fact that we have someone like Zinchenko who's able to get the ball to them in the final third, that then frees them up to stay there and wait for the ball in the final third instead, rather than having to drop deep. So yeah, like I said, this is why Rice and Zinchenko are key in this area. And again, as I mentioned before, because of the system of which we're able to press and get the ball back quickly, and we're able to dominate the ball due to the players that we have and keep the ball in the final third, and we have the build-up play to be able to bring the ball out the back, bypass pressing and get the ball into the final third, and we're able to sustain possession and keep the pressure and keep the opposition in their box, weighing and defending in a deep block and a low block. Because we're able to do all these things, that's why we're able to play with 2 10s. I think when you think about it, this is probably Arteta's ultimate goal for him to get to this stage, where, because obviously we started playing with Xhaka, Odegaard in midfield and all that stuff and all that kind of things, but it seemed like him playing with 2 10s is what he ultimately wanted to get to, and we're at that stage now this season where, like, Fabio Vieira is not a centre mid, he's more of an attacking mid, he's more of a direct player, he's someone that's going to be making runs in behind, making runs into the wide area, he's a final action player, final third player, and we're not playing with a natural centre mid like we did last season with Xhaka. So for me, the reason we're able to play with these 2 10s is simply because of the system, simply because of the individualism of players like Rice to be able to defend and make sure that the gaps are being covered up, and the individual quality of players like Zinchenko, and of course the guys like Gabriel and Saliba, who were also able to build up play and find the opposition in the final third, and allow them to stay up there. So yeah, these are the individual reasons as to why we're able to play in this sort of way. Again, another stat that I did see that also shows how dominant we are. I expect a goal against us, which is obviously the expected goals against us in the season. We're second only to Man City. And in terms of goals conceded, we're again second only to Man City. So it shows that not only are we conceding the least goals in or the second least goal in the season, but also we're conceding the least amount of chances, or good chances or good goal scoring chances against us in the league as well. We're conceding the second least goal. Good chances against us this season. So it shows that we're only behind Man City in terms of goals against us, and only behind Man City for expected goals against us as well. So those kind of things shows our dominance, shows the amount of the ball dominance I have. So again, like I said, we're not as exciting. We're not as exciting, like in the way we're playing. We're not blowing teams out the way, and things like that. And I feel like we're still building up, and I don't think we've peaked yet this season. We're still building up, and there's still a lot of things that's still growing. For example, guys that Havertz are still building himself into the team. Fabio Vieira is only just been integrated properly into the team. Rice obviously is a brand new player into the team. Things like that. Trossard is starting now from the start of the season compared to last season where he only came in halfway through the season. So yeah, there's a lot of things that's going on, and we're having players in and out. Jesus in and out. He's been injured and coming back in. And things like this. So we're not as exciting, but we are very, very dominant. So it does show a lot. But I have said before already, I feel like, and which I will talk about later on, I feel like our back five, which is what Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, White, and Declan Rice, for me, is still far ahead of our front five. For me, I feel like there's a lot of improvement that can be made in our front five, the level of our back five, and it shows because of how much we spent in defense and how much we spend in that area of the pitch compared to how much we spent in the final third. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the final third in terms of like someone who can compete with Martinelli, in terms of someone who can compete with Odegaard, in terms of someone who can play in that left centre mid position, and in terms of a striker. There's multiple positions in the final third in our front five that can still be improved on, and I feel like the level that our back five are on right now, that's not the level that our front five are not at that level yet. I'm not saying that they're not fantastic players or they're not performing or they're not being good, but there's still a level that we can still hit. There's still a level that we can go. And I feel like once we get to that level, we're going to start blowing teams out of the way. We're going to start looking a lot more exciting and getting teams out of the way. And a lot of these games where we're winning 1-0 or like we're dragging these games out, you're going to start seeing 1, 2, 3 goals quickly and things like this. So, but yeah, that could even happen this season once everything clicks. Once all these players clicks, the new additions click into the team as well. All of these things will continue to improve again. But like I said already, and that's the most. And again, if you are chasing a title, you're trying to win a league title. Defense wins titles. You know, yes, you're going to score a lot of goals and stuff like that. But if you're dominant and you're preventing teams, as I've mentioned with the field tits stats, if you're preventing teams from having the ball in your final third, if you're preventing teams from scoring a lot of goals against you, if you're preventing teams from creating a lot of chances against you, and you're preventing teams from literally having the ball in dangerous areas against you, you're most likely going to win these games because it means that they're not going to have that many chances to score goals, which means it's going to reduce the amount of chances they have to score, and it's going to reduce the amount of goals that they can score. So then your defense is going to be raised up high, and if you take your chances in the final third, there's no reason why you can't win a lot of games. So that's why you see, like, if you think about Man City, who, yes, people talk about how exciting Man City are offensively and stuff like that, but the most important thing about Man City has always been their dominance, the way they control games and the way they dominate games. And if you look at all their teams that have won a title, they've usually been the best team defensively in the league. The teams that usually win the title are the best team defensively in the league because you're preventing teams from scoring goals, and because of the level of a team that you are, you're gonna score 1 goal here or 2 goals here. You win 1-0 here, or you win 2-1 here, and things like that. You win a close game, but you prevent teams from scoring goals, you're gonna win games. That's the key thing, and I feel like we're looking like a championship winning team right now with the way we've been dominant in these 5 games. So let's see how we go on from there. And I feel like once we go up a level a little bit more offensively in the final third, based on, obviously, you can have recruitments in January, or even the players themselves can improve, because I feel like Saka himself is not even at his current level. He's not at his level last season at the moment. He's getting there. He's not having a bad season yet. He's not having a bad season, but he's not at that level yet. He's still building up and stepping up. So again, like I said, we are very dominant. The moment we start taking our chances in the final third, start scoring more goals and things like this, I see us being able to compete for the title again. I see us being able to win the title. And as I've said in my other video again, our expectation this season is to win the title. And I feel like we're in the right path. We've got the team. It seems like the experience is there as well. We're starting to build up more experience, and the team is very dominant. And it seems like we're building a team, and we're looking like a team that should be winning titles. So yeah, that's my view on how we've started the season so far.